again, Sappin is a common trend here, and I left in 2014. This is my third job, by the way, so kind of that trial and error thing as you're leaving. Worked for Tesco Consulting for 6 months. I worked in Dubai for 2 years in project management and oil and gas, and I now have been in this company for 16 months, and it's fantastic. And I will tell you all the challenges and all of the hardships you have to go through, but a good company to work for. So a brief contents, what we're going to go through. I'm going to set the scene, and then we're going to dig a little bit deeper as we go further into project management and what I do and where you may see yourself in the future. So Network Rail. So I'm going to give you a context of what we actually do and what we don't do, just so, again, even if you take nothing away from it, you might learn something about the railway, and that's not to sound patronising or condescending in any way, shape or form. So Network Rail is the owner and the manager of the vast majority of infrastructure within Scotland and England and Wales. From 2014, it was part of it became officially part of the public sector, and then we regulated by the DFT, Department for Transport. The role, mission statement, to deliver safe and reliable services, or railway reliable infrastructure, for the 4.5 million people that use it throughout the country, and that's every day. That's freight and personnel. It was nationalised in the 1947. It was run by British Rail, and then up until the 1990s. And as you can see, Railtrack was privatised in 1994 to 2002. And everyone, I'm sure, can remember Hatfield. Disastrous accident that happened, and that was, a lot of it was down to dividends, shareholders, P&L, profit and loss corporation, hence why Network Rail was born in 2002. So we have no shareholders in it, reinvests its income into the railway. We have approximately 34,000 staff which work nationally throughout the whole of the country. We work in infrastructure project management, infrastructure projects. We work in Network Rail or network operations, that's my domain. We have operations, we have maintenance, you've got the headquarters element, and then you have finance, property, and more of the delivery of maintenance, and that's works delivery, and also digital railway, which I'll come on to a few pieces of those in a bit. So the setup, if you just have a quick read through those, 8 devolved routes, and I'll tell you, I've got a geographical map which shows where those devolved routes are, and they're run locally. It's very bespoke geographical locations, and they are diverse in the way that the needs of the freight operating companies and the train operating companies, what they want. Therefore, it's devolved to 8 different routes, run by a managing director, and then they also have a senior leadership team. Use a central support node. It helps with governance. It helps with nationally mandated projects. It's got the core services, compliance, and overall a supporting function for all of the devolved 8 routes. As you can see, so I work in the western route, anything from Paddington up to Worcester and down into Penzance. We have the Wessex route, southeast, Anglia, northeastern, northwestern, Wales and Scotland. All different, all within their own sub-executive boards, with the central node in around there, Milton Keynes, and we also have another headquarter function in Euston and various other different offices within London also. The role of networks. So this may actually myths. So you've got lots of different myths about what we actually do, and this may quash a fair few of them. So 20,000 miles of track. So actually a property owner of how much land that Network Rail is huge, it's vast. The 40,000 bridges, tunnels and viaducts for anyone that's professionally qualified. Doesn't mean to say you need to be professionally qualified, but we have lots of engineer specific that go into those. And then we have the 1,000 of signals, level crossings and stations, part of those which we manage, and some of those, the vast majority of those which we don't. What we don't do. So we don't run our own passenger trains. That's the remit of the train operating companies. Exactly the same thing for the freight operating companies. And we don't set ticket prices. So if you want to just share that information, Network Rail do not set ticket prices. It's heavily regulated by government policy, but I'm not going to go into anything more of that because I know that's probably a touchy subject. Right, major projects in the Western Route. This is where it gets a bit more meaty about what we do and a little bit more about what I do as a program change manager. So we had in control period 5, that was from March 14 and it will go on to March 2019, £38 billion worth of programs in that control period. The ORR and Chris Grayling, our Secretary of Transport, has now got 48 billion total for Network Rail. That's going to be divided up into 8 different routes. That's not yet been quantified or been confirmed yet, but that's for control period 6. That'll go from 19 to 24. 5-year control periods. That's how we're mandated. All the ones underlined, I have involvement with, and within some of my portfolio of program change about delivering the readiness, making sure we've got training, making sure that we've got kit, equipment, making sure we've got maintenance procedures in place for all of these changes. I'm not going to read them verbatim, but as you can see, going on to the digital world and what we're wanting to change, these big projects such as the arrival of Crossrail, the Elizabeth line. We're going to start running trains from the 20th of May 2018. It's going to make our lives different. It's going to be something completely different to what we've been used to with Great Western Rail. Therefore, we need to do something different. If we do the same thing time and time again, we can't expect to have a different outcome. Therefore, we have to change the way we conduct maintenance. So we're looking to change to reliability-centered maintenance, risk-based maintenance, and change this whole thing from a find and fix to a predict and prevent. And I'm not going to bore you with lots of details about that, but that's the future and the aspiration of what the company wants to achieve in the future. Hence why I'm a real advocate and a real supporter and believer that there's some big things about to change and revolutionise the railway. Hence why I wanted to get involved. John spoke a little bit about how they're governed, and you're looking at the Excel spreadsheets. We do a thing called GRIP process, the Governance Railway of Investment Projects. It's an 8-stage thing, so an 8-stage process. If anybody is interested in that, please Google it. You'll find every stage, GRIP stage 1, 2, 3, 4. Same detail just for the pay. I can't remember what you said, John, what you called it, but Network Rail is called transparent pay. Look on Google, transparent pay, and you'll see all the different bands. We have bands from band 8 all the way up to band 1, and then you go on to the executive pay. Very, very similar model. MSP, I did managing successful programs whilst I was working in project management in oil and gas, and it was one of those continuous things that I'd like to do for myself as professional development. You invest in cars, you invest in stocks and shares or anything. Why would you not invest in your future just because you leave the army and you get a job and then you lay on your laurels and say, I'm not going to do any more professional development? I make sure I try and do something, or maybe 1 or 2 things a year that I'm going to be professionally developed. So managing successful programs, I did APMP, I did the Prince 2 as well when I left. It worked for me. The AMAC as well, they do it up at Manchester Business School. I was very lucky to get on that as a captain. I think they're for majors and above, but it was a very worthwhile course, and especially with the people that you're rubbing shoulders with for the ilks, the cohort of colonels and brigadiers and even a 2-star general. It's very interesting, and you learn a lot about microeconomics, governance, HR, lots of different things, business innovation, how you make business work. I did that as well, so I would suggest and recommend that. So the Greater West Programme, this is one of the main things that I work on. Electrification, making sure that we've got mentoring for the way that we take isolations, maintenance. We're going to have same maintenance windows or even a reduced amount of possession times to do maintenance, because we have to isolate the electrified lines. Therefore, we're having less time to do more maintenance. Question mark. That's when I came on and my boss said, go and do some work to do that. That was my remit. But we've got a huge amount of investment over, as I said, £38 billion that's going on in CP5, Control Period 5, and we've got Victorian era infrastructure trying to overlay modern day technology. Very, very hard and complex thing to change. Modernising the route will improve the experience for freight and train operating companies, but as you can see, some of the other benefits, we've got faster, greener and more reliable services and more enjoyable it will give us bigger capacity and more enjoyable for the end user, the end client, which will be the paying customers. It does go hand in hand with economic growth. Southwest, it's got one road in Cornwall and one road out, the A30. I'm from Cornwall, so I'm a Cornish boy, so it's close to my heart. We have the rail service as well down to Penzance is not very good. Our CEO, Mark Khan, is also from Saltash. He's a Cornwall boy, so he wants to try to improve that, but it doesn't. You can see the fact that it doesn't complement the economic growth. The fact that Cornwall is one of the poorest counties in the country, but you look at the infrastructure and the main supply routes in and out of kit and equipment and all of the bits and pieces around it, it needs to improve. So projects that are actually in my portfolio, I've talked to you about, my main thing is maintenance. Anybody can go into lots of different things, but I work within maintenance and how we need to change maintenance in order to make sure that they're reliable and we're set up for success, for performance, when we work with our train operating companies and our freight operating companies. That's not to say that there aren't any other things. You've got maintenance operations, you've got works delivery, and the other big thing that a lot of ex-Army people, Army, tri-service, will go into the infrastructure projects, and that's something that Jack will come on to. That's the physical construction of actual infrastructure going on, and I do more of the change. Key skills that's required. This is where there are some commonalities between the jobs that you and I did, and each and every one of you in the room that do day in, day out. You have the relationships and the effective communications between you and your work colleagues, your negotiation, persuasion, execution, delivery of actually doing something, and that is quite hard to come by because of the complexity and the stakeholders that are involved. To actually get something done is really, really quite challenging. Often because it's so heavily governed, and the governance around it, which makes things difficult. And then also looking for your contingency plans, your A, B, C, D plans. Again, have a look at the meetings. Have a look through the typical day. I try to give a bit of a snapshot of an average day. There is no average day. There are meetings. I work predominantly within London, Paddington, Reading, Swindon and Bristol, all the way along the western route, and you could be in meetings and the like anywhere at any time, but a lot of it comes down to client meetings, understanding that we're on track for project forecast, making sure all the staff are content, making sure that you're dealing with any of the issues, and making sure that you've got action points and your team. I manage a team, Network Rail, 34,000 staff. You're all in a tiered system, and I have a team of 8 people that work for me, so a lot of my time, again, which, like yourselves, takes up by time management. Stakeholders, all of the ones of the above are the main ones: Mass Transit Railway, GWR, ORR, the DFT, RFL. I don't tend to deal with these ones, however, depending on what sector and what area you go into Network Rail will differ, and it will vary with what your stakeholders may be. Up here, it's complex, it's a big beast. Daily challenges, I'm just going to whip on, because Fiona's given me some at the corner of my eye. Aging assets, new technology. We've got process, trade unions. It's heavily, the Network Rail is heavily unionised. Communications with businesses, communications within the business, clear responsibilities and accountabilities, and having that single point of contact. It's not like the military. It's very difficult to try and phone somebody up and say who is responsible for X, Y, and Z. The challenges comes opportunities, trying to change process, using our infrastructure management tools, looking for more information and using technology, and making sure that push and pull, the maintainability of our assets and our infrastructure, that we get the performance and the reliability and the operational reliability of our assets. Please take note that, so this is Leanne Wood. Anybody that wants to get in touch with her, I can give you her email. You can do work experience in your last 6 months, 2 to 6 week work experience. You've got there this is an award that we won for a gold award for services to the reserves and the armed forces. I'm in the reserves, and they do support it very, very well. And you've got there Prince Harry, Mark Khan, Leanne, that's Dorian Gray, he's a sapper, and you've also got our old Defence Secretary there. But any questions, please feel free to ping me an email, take my email address down. I'll be available to talk further afterwards. And then you've got LinkedIn there. Leanne has prompted me to say, please get in touch with her and she can get you down. But please, if you are looking at jobs, sign up for the alerts. There's an alert system on Network Rail Careers. And as you can see, it's up there. And have a look and sign up to that and then get in contact with myself or Leanne, and we'll be happy to help further.